By the time my mother stood up, with a champagne glass in her hand, the room was already glowing with approval. My brother's wedding had gone exactly the way he wanted: outdoor ceremony, long wooden tables, soft lights strung through trees. People were relaxed, generous, ready to clap for anything that sounded like love. Mom tapped her glass gently. "We are so proud of you," she began, looking at my brother and his new wife. Her voice carried easily. She had always known how to hold a room. Then she smiled wider. "And to help you start this new chapter, we are gifting you the family home." There it was. Applause burst across the tables. My brother looked stunned, then thrilled. His wife covered her mouth with both hands. It was a perfect wedding moment: generous parents, a symbolic house, a legacy handed down. I was seated near the back, at a table with distant relatives and people from my sister-in-law's office. I hadn't been part of any planning conversations about this gift. But that wasn't unusual. For years, decisions had been made in front of me rather than with me. The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was a quiet, tired recognition. The family home. 3 years ago, when my parents fell behind on mortgage payments after Dad's health issues, there had been no public announcement. No raised glasses, just a tense afternoon in a lawyer's office, where numbers were laid out in black and white. I had stepped in. I didn't do it as a power move. I did it because foreclosure would have broken them. We structured it cleanly. I paid off the remaining balance. The title transferred to my name to satisfy the bank's conditions. It was practical. Protective. Afterward, Mom told me, "This doesn't change anything. It's still our home." I agreed. Because at the time, it felt easier. Back at the reception, she was still speaking about roots, about tradition, about keeping the house in the family. The applause softened. I realized something in that moment: if I stayed silent again, the story would harden into truth. My brother would plan his future around a house that wasn't legally transferable. My parents would continue pretending that my intervention had been temporary, invisible. The old instinct surfaced. Don't embarrass anyone. Let it go. Fix it quietly later. But later always meant privately absorbing the consequences. I stood up. Not abruptly, just enough to be seen. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice even, "you can't do that." A few people chuckled, assuming it was a sibling joke. Mom looked toward me, smiling too brightly. "Sit down," she said lightly. "You're just jealous." More laughter. Not cruel, just comfortable. For a second, I considered sitting, letting the narrative roll over me again. Instead, I reached into my bag and took out the folded copy of the deed I kept for practical reasons. I didn't wave it. I didn't raise my voice. "I own it now," I said. The laughter thinned. My brother's smile faltered, confusion replacing excitement. My sister-in-law looked between us, unsure whether this was part of some elaborate family humor. Mom's expression shifted, not to anger, but to disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she said, softer now. "The refinance," I replied, "when the bank required full transfer to close the debt." Silence spread across the nearest tables. Conversations at the edges of the reception began to slow. The wedding coordinator, who had been helping manage seating and overheard enough to sense tension, approached cautiously. She glanced at the document in my hand when I offered it. "If the property is legally titled in your name," she said carefully, "any transfer would require your written consent. A gift can't be declared publicly without that." Her tone was neutral. Professional. No drama. That was the turning point. Not my words. Not my standing up procedure. My brother looked at me, not angry, just blindsided. "Why didn't I know this?" he asked. "Because it wasn't about you," I said. "It was about preventing foreclosure." Mom's shoulders lowered slightly, as if the air had shifted weight. "You never said it was permanent," she murmured. "It was legal," I replied. That made it permanent. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. I wasn't trying to retract generosity from my brother. I just couldn't let another public decision erase the private cost I had carried. "I'm not taking anything away from you," I told my brother. If you want to live there someday, we can talk about it. But it's not a symbolic gift, it's an asset with responsibilities. No one applauded that. The music resumed after a few uneasy minutes. Plates clinked again. Conversations restarted softer, recalibrated. The wedding continued. It didn't collapse. No one stormed out. But something subtle had shifted. Later that evening, my brother sat beside me near the edge of the dance floor. "I didn't know you covered the whole mortgage," he said. "I didn't need credit for it," I answered. "I just needed honesty." He nodded slowly. "I guess we all assumed you'd just handle things." That sentence lingered longer than the music. For years I had handled tuition gaps, handled emergency bills, handled uncomfortable conversations in private so public celebrations could stay intact. Breaking that pattern wasn't loud. It was awkward, slightly embarrassing, imperfect, but it was necessary. When the night ended, Mom hugged me goodbye, not tightly, not warmly, but differently. "You could have told me before," she said. "I tried," I replied. "You just preferred the version where I didn't." She didn't argue. Driving home, I didn't feel victorious. I felt exposed. Speaking up costs something. It rearranges how people see you. But for the first time, the house wasn't being used as a symbol over my head. It was simply what it had been all along. Mine to manage. And no longer mine to silently surrender.